Good afternoon, everyone, especially to you, Miss Laganhon. I hope you're all doing okay. And we are the Group 8. I am Sophia, and we will be discussing about the nonverbal communication and business etiquette, together with my partner, Peter. And I will be discussing the nonverbal communication first, and Peter will take over the business etiquette. Nonverbal communication. When you try to look at the pictures, here are the common examples of nonverbal communication. It may occur through hand gestures, body movements, and even your facial expressions. So, what is nonverbal communication? Is an oral and non-oral messages expressed by other than linguistic means? This rule out not only sign languages but also written words. It includes messages transmitted by vocal means that don't involve language like sighs, laughs, and other utterances. Also, a nonverbal message is any message that is not written or spoken. It may accompany a verbal message like smiling when you greet someone. It may occur alone, or selecting the backseat when entering the classroom or staff meeting. Body movement. The most expressive part of your body is your face, especially your eyes. Research shows that receivers tend to be quiet, consistent in their reading of facial expressions. In fact, many of these expressions have the same meaning across different cultures. Eye contact and eye movement tells you a lot about a person. It is one of the most communicators known to man. Hearts have been broken and wars have been declared in the wink of an eye. That's why our eyes play a big role in our nonverbal communication. We may be able to identify if the person is being upset when the pupils dilate. When we say dilate, it gets bigger, or constrict. When we say constrict, it gets smaller to control the amount of light that enters the eyes. And when the eye is sad, it looks like heavy and droppy. And if the eye is confused, the skin between the two eyebrows can wrinkle briefly. Although maintaining eye contact with a person in Western cultures communicates I am listening. Direct eye contact, however, can be confronting over a prolonged period. Alternate between occasional direct eye contact to focusing on the area between the person's mouth and nose. Gestures are hand and upper body movements that add important information to face interactions. You can communicate quite a bit using oral and written signals. Moreover, gestures are used to help illustrate and reinforce your verbal message. Like for examples, gestures can be used to emphasize a point. Example, pointing to a wrist watch to suggest time is running out. And illustrate a point, like for example, creating a shape with your hands. Body stance. Posture, placement of arms and legs, distribution of weight, and the like is another form of nonverbal communication. For example, leaning slightly toward the person with whom you are communicating would probably be taken as a sign of interest and involvement in the interaction. Yes, definitely we can recognize if the person is willing to listen to the word that comes from our mouth by leaning slightly. Meanwhile, leaning back with arms folded across the chest might be taken an intended sign of boredom or defiance. Nonverbal communication, different cultures, typical differences. Facial expression. A smile is one of the most common examples of a facial expression in different cultures. While in Americans smile freely at strangers, yes, I agree with it because I've met a lot of American people across the street and they will smile at you like you know them. However, most of the Filipino people find that awkwardly. In Russia, this is considered strange and even impolite. Who else are planning to go to Russia? Do not ever smiles at them, because if you think in your end you are just good to them, however in their sides it is considered as impolite. In Asian cultures, a smile isn't necessarily an expression of joy and friendliness, but it can be used to convey pain and embarrassment. While for many Scandinavians, a smile or any facial expression used to convey emotions is untypical because it is considered a weakness to show emotions. Scandinavians people can detect you easily if you are a weak person through smiling, because they considered this as frailty. Head movements. In many cultures in the Middle East and Bulgaria, the head movement for yes is just the opposite of the head movement for yes in almost any other culture. You can imagine how confusing it can be to see that somebody is all smiles but his or her head movement means no to you. In such cases, saying yes or no with the words is enough to avoid confusion. Here in the Philippines, when we nod our head, that means it is yes. Unlike from the Middle East and Bulgaria, the head movement for them stands for no. Hand and arm gestures. Hand and arm gestures as a form of nonverbal communication also vary widely among cultures. While in some cases, a particular gesture means nothing to a representative of another culture, in other cases, for instance, the thumbs up gesture or the OK sign have vulgar meanings in Iran and Latin America, respectively. It is an obscene insult meaning sit on it, which is their equivalent to holding a middle finger up. Yet in other countries, the OK sign means just zero, which is not offensive. Physical space. The acceptable physical distance is another major difference in the nonverbal communication between cultures. In Latin America and the Middle East, the acceptable distance is much shorter than what most Europeans and Americans feel comfortable with. This is why an American or a European might wonder why the other person is invading his or her personal space by standing so close, while the other person might wonder why the American European is standing so far from him or her. Are they trying to run away or what? Touching. Handshakes are usually acceptable almost everywhere, even between strangers. However, kissing on the cheek, patting on the shoulder, embraces, or touching other bodily parts aren't for many people in Asia and other parts of the world. Such actions are interpreted as an offense or even a violation of one's private space. This is why you should avoid touching. Actually, I can attest how Filipino people are being conservative when someone touched them without their permission or consent. In my case, I don't want also to be touched by someone else without my consent and permission. Even though hugged by someone or kissed on the cheek or even touching other bodily parts. I will not allow such actions like that. Eye contact. Eye contact is one of the forms of nonverbal communication where the difference is most striking. In America and Latin America, not looking the other person in the eye is a sign of disrespect, and it might even look suspicious. He or she doesn't dare to look me in the eye, so he or she is hiding something. In Asian cultures, prolonged eye contact is especially offensive. You should avoid it at all costs. Physical postures. Physical postures are also quite of a difference between cultures. The most common example is the habit of many American executives to rest with their feet on their desk, which in Asia, the Middle East, and Europe is considered highly offensive. These two pictures in front of you shows how American people behave, while in other countries such as Asia, Middle East, and Europe, it is considered as highly offensive. The differences in nonverbal communication between cultures are noticeable. This means that when you need to communicate with people from different cultures, you need to attune yourself to different culture customs and as possible learn in advance about their nonverbal communication. This can save you a lot of embarrassment, misunderstanding. Lastly, just a quick reminder. When we go to other countries, let's make sure first that we study their cultures and traditions and how they act and how they use their proper etiquette, because you might not understand why they are embarrassed to you. After all, the way you act is unacceptable in their perspective. It is either nonverbal or verbally saying. We always need to be careful in all aspects. We have differences and we should always take the responsibility to be sensitive to their cultures and traditions as well, and to avoid conflicts. Right now, Peter will discuss about the business etiquette, and I will give the floor to Peter.
What is business etiquette? Business etiquette is the practice of polite and appropriate behavior in the business setting. It dictates what behaviors are proper and under what circumstances. This business etiquette is really concerned with interaction between people, not meaningless rituals. Each organization has its own rules about what is and is not considered fitting in terms of dress. Ways of addressing superiors, importance of punctuality, and the like. In addition, every country and every culture has its own rules. These rules in general not written down and must be learned through observation. Executives who follow correct business etiquette are more confident and appear more in charge. And the higher advance in your career, the more important such behavior will become. Correct business etiquette are more confident and appear more in charge. And the higher advance in your career, the more important such behavior will become. Business etiquette differs in many ways from social etiquette. It is important that you must be sensitive to what is appropriate under any given circumstances. Good manners, good business, they communicate a strong positive message about you as a person. Mark Twain once said about etiquette, always do right, you will please some people, astonish the rest. Types of business etiquette. Professionalism. Professionalism consists of the contribution to an enjoyable, creative, and comprehensive work environment. It is also contains fulfillment of promise, punctuality, emotional control is an unexpected situation, and flexible performance. Interaction etiquette. Interaction etiquettes consist of phone etiquettes, email etiquettes, and in-person etiquettes, etc. Phone etiquettes. Keep the ring volume low. Try to keep your sound level at mid-range. Try to not use your phone during a meeting. Email etiquette. Etiquette. Try to reply to core emails with a working day and exterior emails within 3 business days. Don't use exclamation mark or smiley faces emojis. Always regard receivers and use formality in writing an email. In-person etiquette. Listen to people attentively. Focus on body language and especially Keeping the eye contact. Don't praise someone's appearance too much. Meeting etiquette. Meetings are the most crucial part of business interaction. It is also permits teams to share their ideas, techniques, and reach on the same page of streams and significances. Share the meeting agenda before attending as the participants can prepare themselves for the arguments and any possible discussions. Deals. Be on time. Make introductions. Organize a lunch if your meeting is at lunchtime. Table manners and meal etiquette. There's far more the dinner and meal etiquette than knowing which fork to use, luckily. Once you memorize these rules, you'll be well equipped for any eating situation. Every professional should know the following. Put your napkin in your lap when you sit down. Order items in a similar price range to your dining companions. Don't start eating until everyone has received their food. Pass condiments and dishes from left to right rather than reaching across the table. Chew with your mouth closed. Don't snap your fingers at your service. After the meal is over, partially fold your napkin and put it to the left of your plate. Business dress etiquette. Business dress etiquette is a part of building our executive presence and should be taken seriously. It is also about you. Present your professional image says a lot about you. The following tips are suggested by Investopedia. First is always adhere to the dress code established by the office. Second is, when unsure, opt for business dress rather than casual apparel. The third is, maintain a clean, well-groomed appearance.
Just a quick recap on Peter's discussion. Business etiquette is a set of manners that is accepted or required in a profession. And there are 5 types of business etiquette. First is the professionalism. Communicating effectively and appropriately and always finding a way to be productive. Second is the interaction etiquette. The customary code of polite behavior in society or among members of a particular profession or group. Third is meeting etiquette. The standard of behavior expected in the workplace during meetings. Under the meeting etiquette, there are phone etiquette, email etiquette, and in-person etiquette. Fourth is table manners and meal etiquette. The rules of etiquette used while eating, which may also include the use of utensils. Lastly is business dress etiquette, the clothing that is acceptable at work. Thank you so much for listening, Bas 1E. Keep safe always and padayon.